internet's most significant contributing member talking with famous people. More significant than Google, you might ask? Yes, by several orders of magnitude. Well, anyway, comparative significance to Google aside, let's talk a little bit about the time people. What does it mean to be a time person? Well, you can interpret it lots of different ways, I suppose. I think of it as linking to universality at the expense of particularism. Cameron's so effectively particularist, it's ridiculous. He was talking to his girlfriend on the phone the other day, and he said, "What time is it?" And I said, 10 o'clock. I realized, of course, Cameron would never ask me what time it is. He also wasn't actually asking his girlfriend what time it was. He was saying, like, "What time is it?" Like that, like, "Why are you calling so early?" But F.E. Polar means he's not necessarily good at conveying all those nuances with tone, Tonal nuance. Hi, tonal nuance. Tonal nuance over here is coming down the stairs, looking like Miss America.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, tonal nuance. Anyhow, we were trying to live stream inside with the mics and everything, so we finally got our stuff here at the house. But I cannot find the long mic cable, and we don't necessarily need that one, but I also can't find the connector cable from the audio card to the laptop. I'll be in a minute if you want.
Okay.
Yeah. Pretty chilly up here. It was raining earlier. Then it was like would half turn to snow, But maybe I get a little bit better lighting where it's not so big bright glare thing in the background. But then it reverted to rain again. When Cameron and I went fishing today, we were fishing in the snow for a while. It was snowing while we were fishing, which was super cool. Then it changed to rain. That was a little worse, but the rain part didn't stick around for a long time, so we didn't get soaked or anything. I had a lot of clothes on anyway. I was well prepared for the wintry weather. And it's nice. It's a nice change of pace. Today was Saturday, which wasn't the best day to go fishing. We went to Bass Lake, but I also stopped at what I didn't realize I went a bad way was I stopped at the easiest spot to get to from the highway. Although I didn't get there the easiest way. Which means, even though it was a little weathery, we actually had two ladies fishing down a little ways from us, and then we were fishing. But then, as the day progressed, a family came down there, and then, as we were getting ready to leave, this large group of either high school students, probably college students though, because they weren't chaperoned, and none of them looked like kids exactly. They all looked to be 18 to 19 years old. So it was either a group of high school seniors off on their own, or probably college kids. Anyway, they came down to the water's edge and started throwing rocks in the water between the two fisher peoples. Right, me and Cameron over here, these two ladies were over here. They came in the middle here and started throwing rocks into the water. It's like, oh my God. My dad would have killed me if I tried to do that. Or he made sure I didn't do that early on. Hello, silver, whatever. When I go outside, I'll be able to see better what these chats say. I can't really see them right now. We didn't catch anything. But Cameron had some action on his line. I know because he was like, he got in the line and went back to the car to get a couple of chairs. And I came back down, I could see it like pulling, just like clearly had a fish on it. But it got off before we got down there. So that was as close as we got to catching anything. Of course, we went a bad time of day. If you want to catch fish, you should go first thing in the morning or as the sun's going down. Those are the best times to catch fish in Sierra Nevada lakes, anyway. We're in the lower Sierras. I have experience in the high Sierras. In the high Sierras, you can't fish the lakes during the winter because they're frozen over. But here in the low Sierras, like the elevation at Bass Lake is about the same as here, about 4,000 feet or something, maybe a little higher. I'm not sure, but maybe 5,000 feet. It's not super high up, you know. Whereas like Mammoth Lakes, California is at 8,000 feet. All the lakes are above the town, so they're all frozen during the winter. That's where I spent my childhood in the Sierras. We had a condo up in Mammoth, and I went and skied there during the winter and fished there during the summer. And, you know, we went there a lot. It was fun. I enjoyed that place more than other vacation spots. I definitely liked it better than Hawaii. Or like Desert Hot Springs, which later in his life, my dad was quite enamored with Desert Hot Springs. It's just like, there's nothing particularly interesting about the area. It was just getting away to the timeshare and a change of scenery and feel like you're on vacation, you know. Okay, let's turn this like, yeah. Got this on the good tripod, so that makes it a lot easier to maneuver around and stuff. We finally did get our stuff here at the house after many trials and tribulations. I don't remember when the last time I live stream was, but I suspect that at the time I was explaining that we couldn't get the pod up here. Have I ever been to Alaska? No, Eric Moore, I never have. Hello, Silver Zalis. There's Cameron. And in fact, I can move this back a little bit. We're not really going to be able to hear him from over there. We could move to the kitchen if we all want to be on streaming. We should probably move to the kitchen. Okay. It depends how active you guys want to be participating in it.
Probably more going to be your thing.
Okay, well then just leave it here. Anyway, Cameron's been up here for a few days, and I was hoping to have all the pod stuff done before he got here. But because the pod truck got stuck in the mud, supposedly 5 minutes from our house, I had to hire a moving company to go down to Fresno, bring all the stuff up here. But it turned out to be nice because they also did all the bed moving around, which was going to be a big pain in the ass. I'm glad I didn't have to do it. So, we've had some interesting neighbor experiences here. Everybody's very friendly. Like, people come over and say hi and welcome to the neighborhood and stuff and chat with us briefly. We're still moving, arranging stuff. And it's going to be a process, you know. I'm going to end up putting things in one drawer and then deciding, no, I'm going to move those things to that drawer and these things to that drawer. I'm going to do those kind of things, I'm sure, plenty before it's all settled in. But at least we have all of our stuff now. and there's nothing in flux. We're just moving in properly, which is nice. And while I am not actually better from my cold yet, I am a lot better than I have been. You know, I've been sick the whole time since I've been here, which makes it hard to feel like you're settling in any kind of new norm when you're physically not 100%. Boba Fett, hello. Silver Zala says hello, Rachel, and she waves in return. In reply, Cameron's also here. He's over there.
Hello, people.
And interestingly, Cameron, I don't think it really. Did you ever gone fishing before today?
Just a few times. You and I went to a pier once. I forget which pier, and I was dropping my underwater camera off a fishing pole to look under the water more than fishing.
Underwater camera.
Yeah.
Boba Fett says hello, Cameron.
What's up, Boba Fett?
And I guess I just felt like live streaming tonight because I feel a little disconnected from the channel. I put up a couple shorts today. 3 shorts on Talking with Thin People, 1 on Mindy's Club, and the 2 fishing shorts. 2 of the fishing shorts I put up did pretty well, like 1,500 views or something. So I should put more shorts up on Talking with Thin People channel because I am now. I'm monetized for shorts now, so I mean, I don't know what the monetization arrangement looks like, but it looks like it looks like a nice place. The house have a lot of square footage. You know, I don't think it really has that much square footage. Like, not the rooms aren't huge or anything, but what it has going for it is a really smart design. What we discovered talking to the neighbors is the guy who built this house in 2000 also designed and built and made happen the water tank system that now gives water to everybody in this little back area of called Jerseydale. So if you connect to it, that's why this house has in it the electrical diagrams for the water towers. So I've got all the diagrams for the water towers in this house because the guy who put that water tower thing in built this house. And you can tell the guy was a TE genius, probably an INTJ, because this place is continuing to surprise me with how really well thought out it is. It's a great house. It's so much better than the house we were living in Arcadia. We just have 1 acre. That's it. So, there's a hill behind our house that goes down to a flat spot, and that's the edge of our property. And that's kind of unusual for Mariposa. A lot of people in Mariposa want acreage. So, because they want to, have a ranch or something. Well, Rachel and I don't want to do any of that kind of work. People down the road from us, I saw today, there were a bunch of chickens out by the fence down on Triangle Road. We were coming back in. Yeah, so and there's horses around here, and people. I haven't seen anybody back around here who has cows, but I've seen several horses and chickens. So, the thing is, one thing this house has is an insane, incredible amount of storage space that's really intelligently put together. Like, the garage has just got shit tons of storage space, plus plenty of room to put the little wilderness car in there, and you could probably put 2 wilderness cars in there, but maybe even the Mini Cooper, I don't know, but we've got and it's great. Rachel called it Great Gatsby parking. when we had to make room for the moving truck, we pulled both cars and the little wilderness car over here on this little side parking lot thing we have, parking area, and it's a circular driveway. So you can put so many cars back here without any problem. Um, and it's just really thoughtfully put together. There's a generator outside with a plug that probably it goes into this plug in the wall that probably powers the whole house, without you having to do anything else besides plugging that one plug in here and one plug in here if the power goes out. The toilets are all high volume flush, which is fantastic because mostly in California you can't even get those kind of toilets. But I'm assuming a uh, there's an exception to those kind of rules for well water or tank water, which we're on. Because the other thing is, all the water that we use either drains outside out this little tube, or most of it goes into a septic, which is a specially designed septic that has what are called leach fields. So yeah, well, he was a super techie guy. Like, in the attic, when he built it in 2000, he brought with him a Commodore Amiga. So he was obviously into tech, old and new. There was a bunch of cables and all kinds of stuff like that. Yeah, lots of shelves, so much shelving in the garage, it's crazy. Plus two different workbench areas. Plus, the whole house vacuums in there, and the water heater. It's a big garage when you think about all the stuff that's already in there. It's got a hall pantry. It's got a hall electronics pantry. you know, and what it gives up in exchange for all this brilliant organization, like thought through planning, is there really isn't any place to put knickknacks, which I like as well. There's a little bit of mantle over here. Of course, it accumulates mess, but it's a home designed to prevent you from being like curio cabinet lady. Uh, when our stuff got here, I got my dad's ashes. They've been in the pod, and I've been moving them around, putting them in different spots around the house to show them different places. So far, I've been putting them around outside, showing them the different views. But it's a weird kind of magical thinking. Like my dad's urn of ashes doesn't have any eyes. Yeah, I mean, I think you're very well served to treat this house as it's meant to be treated, which is it's designed so that you don't have to store anything that's not put away someplace. Uh, and so that you can, everything has its purpose here. The thing is, the guy wired this house for high-speed internet in 2000. Of course, the high-speed internet then was DSL, obviously, but uh, supposedly, but it's like there's Ethernet cables in the electronic pantry, I like to call it, that are all numbered, and so that, like, if you want to, if you plug, there's also like Ethernet jacks someplace around here too, but they have numbers on them, so they correspond with something over here that I haven't figured out yet. I mean, my internet's actually pretty good here. Like this stream's coming out pretty good. The video quality is pretty high, and there's not any lag. The only time I had a problem was when I had Google Photo settings to to automatically upload everything. That was causing me a problem, so I just turned that off. You love the ATV golf buggy thing? That looks like so much fun. It is a surprising amount of fun, mostly because it's so comfortable. You know, it's not bumpy or jolty or whatever. You can go over bumpy ass roads and it feels all smooth as you drive it. So,
Yeah.
you know, Cameron and I are probably next time he comes up here, we'll go take the rifle out into the wilderness someplace and shoot. We heard gunshots. Somebody else was out shooting in the wilderness a couple days ago or something. And then Cameron and I heard them this morning at Bass Lake as well. Of course, the nice thing about national forests is they're not subject to California's rules. They're national forests. So they're subject to federal government rules.
Thanks, Just Davis.
Thanks, Just Davis.
Wow.
You're not just Davis. You're, oh my God, Davis. Isn't that a lot more fancy sounding? Well, you know, I inherited this 22 rifle and a bunch of bullets, so might as well go out and fire it off a few times. Exercise my right to do so as an American. But I want to do it like midweek when there's not anybody around out there, and I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it by myself. I want to do it with Cameron here because, you know, I don't really know about guns. Cameron says we should clean it first, so, you know.
That sounds like fun, huh?
Not so much, but it sounds like something I'm okay with. Forest fire risk? How vulnerable are you? There was a big one some years ago there. It took about a bunch of people's houses. Got a hydrant thing just in case. Sorry, Graham. Actually, there's a hydrant on either side of our house on the street that goes to the water tanks, I guess. The thing is, there was a fire up here last summer and the summer before. And in fact, we drive through burn area to get to our house. But because the last 2 summers have had big fires, now's the time to buy. People are like, oh, there's burn areas nearby. We don't want to go there where there's burn areas, and that's not foresty enough. But the thing is, where exactly we are is not a burn area. But we're close, you know. Like across the street on the hill, looks like the fire got down that hill some distance, but then this direction is more just all forest. I'm getting content. It's taking some time, you know. I definitely have had a very disrupted last, 6 to 9 months. And the process of moving was very hard on me. I am terrible at that kind of stuff, and I felt out of my element continually as I was in this state of flux. I could never find anything. I couldn't get definitive answers about things because of the way real estate is, and it was difficult to make decisions and and then the world was continually requiring of me TESI that I didn't have, but in the end this turned out to be really all about SE and good luck. It's not like Rachel or I are well designed to choose a home to live in either, because we just liked the house holistically, kind of, and I liked a couple of features, but the fact that it's so well designed TE wise and considers like so many different things. Like, for example, the garden hose is the exact right length to go all the way down the back of the hill to where the flat part is, where you do prescribed burns and or just have a campfire or something, you know. Like Rachel and Cameron and I went and had a campfire down there the other night. And we drove the little wilderness cart down the dirt driveway down the hill. You know, something like, you know, not very far. But I didn't want to carry the gas can down there. And we couldn't get the fire started without it, even with a propane torch, because it's so wet right now. But anyway, that was fun. Rachel put on music and we chilled and fed the fire for a while.
Yeah, it was fun.
So, yeah, and then our neighbors came by and Maynard and Colleen, they're neighbors over there. There's Jeremy and Carrie, they're our next door neighbors right there. There's Les, he's the symphony conductor for the Yosemite Symphony Orchestra. He lives just down the street a bit. And then we met, who were those people yesterday? Was it Maynard and Kay's brother-in-law or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
They bought him out
Oh, right, yeah.
of the place, but names, no, I don't know.
Okay, so they were just linked to Maynard and Kay. They're not neighbors exactly. Those other two people. But you know, I'm looking forward to doing some weird adult neighbor stuff, like, you know, and inviting the neighbors over for dinner or something.
Yeah.
That'd be funny. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
You know, it's like that's the sort of stuff that has never been even conceivable for me, right? Because I'm a weirdo and and I don't have normal kind of adult-like relationship with other adults. They all seem to see me as there's something wrong with Eric, but it looks like a super place to grow your own. Do we plan to? Probably we will in the summer. Yeah. Or once the last frost of the year is over, we'll probably plant some seeds. We'll have to get some seeds. I could order them, I think, online. But yeah. Well, oh God, those horrible people at Caring Transitions killed my weed plant.
Oh my gosh.
My weed plants. I had 3 of them. They killed them all. For no reason.
For no reason.
I found some information about where one can shoot, or, you know, how one is supposed to shoot guns around.
What does it say?
Well, generally in national forest, you're supposed to do it in a safe manner. Let me see. I'll grab this. I took a screenshot of that one. Okay, target shooting is generally allowed on BLM administered public lands as long as it is done in a safe manner without damaging natural resources or improvements on public lands. The BLM allows the use of firearms on public lands as provided for in California state law. And then specific to your area here, you can't shoot within like 500 yards of occupied dwellings or buildings that are associated with occupied dwellings. And then there's a whole thing about areas where it's prohibited. Do you want me to read it?
No. Hi LIA last. When is the last freeze in this area normally? I don't know. Probably April. I doubt it. I mean, you never know. It might be a late frost in early May or something, but you know, the other thing is weed plants are pretty durable, so they can handle a little bit of frost. It's not going to kill them necessarily. as long as it's a mild one. I mean, obviously, if you leave them outside and it's like 20 degrees outside, then that would probably kill them. But we're not that high up. It's not that cold here. Just listen to them and take the stage in a well orchestrated manner. You would be a good neighbor and will be. Well, yeah. Thanks for the advice. I I'm not too worried about successfully managing my interactions with my neighbors because it's a different kind of person up here. You know, people who are living back here, they aren't stressed out. They're not busy either. You know, and well, I mean, if I have them in pots, I could always just put them inside, or I could even just move them underneath the overhang of the walkway around the house, and if I did that, then they would they would be less susceptible to frost because they'd be covered with something. It's like it makes a big difference whether you're out under the open sky or whether you're underneath, even if you're outside underneath like a covered walkway. It'd be if they're underneath something, they can go temperature can go down quite a bit and they can still be okay. But I would kind of like to grow directly into the ground if I can. Plants get a lot bigger when you do that, and you get a lot bigger yield from them. Has anyone in your family ever had autism? I used to have it, but finally I kicked it. It turned out to be a viral form of autism. I took the COVID vaccine and finally it went away.
Autism conversion therapy work?
Yeah, I went to Sheikh Shadle for autism conversion therapy. No, I don't have any family members with autism. The thing is, almost nobody knows anybody with autism. Autism always includes mental retardation. So when psychiatrists or psychologists try to tell you you're on some sort of spectrum, autistic spectrum, they have no idea what they're talking about. I worked in special ed. I worked with autistic students plenty of times. Just because there's some similarity in affect to people who are, you know, have FE4 or FE7 does not mean that there's any commonality between them and autistic people. Autistic people necessarily includes a component of mental retardation. And it's ridiculous to try to just call everything that looks vaguely like the affect of autistic people a form of autism. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Yeah, how are they diagnosing a 3-year-old already with autism unless he's genuinely autistic, like stimming, you know? Autistic people do stuff like this. You know, if you see that kind of shit, then yeah, okay, fine. This movement in general to turn everything into some sort of pathology, you know, it's like ridiculous. It's what happens when too few people care about the truth, and too many people care about finding a pathology name for how you're different from them. You know, it's ridiculous. You're dancing too much. You must have histrionic meow meow syndrome.
If you can tell someone they have a diagnosis, then, well, you can bill for it. I think it's about billing codes, you know? You don't want to give somebody services for being normal. You gotta say they're autistic.
Yeah. No one got any money for being normal.
No.
I don't like the term mental retardation. We all have it now by definition. Well, I mean, everybody's retarded about something and not retarded about something, you know? Some things and some things. So, one of the points been trying to get across here is that, you know, like, the stuff I talk about, what I'm doing here is exactly in my attentional wheelhouse when I'm live streaming or talking about cardinal functions, ideas, stuff like that. So I get that people get frustrated with me insisting I'm exclusively right in my understanding of this whole thing. That's not good FE, right? But it's important to remember that I'm, to the extent that it seems like I'm claiming too much ground, remember I'm claiming exclusively one kind of ground. So, and it's exactly the ground that I'm intentionally configured for. Everyone eat your magnesium. On an off-topic note, I'm bleeding from the nose. Will eating your magnesium stop your nose from bleeding? That I do not know.
I didn't know.
If I take it, it stops his nose from bleeding, is what I get from this.
Yeah, if everybody else eats their magnesium, then Ian's nose stops bleeding. We tried to use the fire starter that Cameron brought the other day. We made some magnesium shavings and did the spark, but it was too wet out there. We were unable to get a fire going that way. Turns out it's a little harder than it looks on Naked and Afraid. We've been watching a lot of Naked and Afraid. It's a show Cameron, Rachel, and I can all enjoy.
You want to show them the fire starter? I got it right here for you.
Sure. So this is the fire starter we used, but it didn't successfully start a fire. Thing is, it's a lot easier to scrape this stuff off with a better knife than this thing. I actually used a wood chisel to scrape it off. And now we're going to move briefly outside. I am, and the camera is, before returning to the inside area of the home. Thanks, Jeff Shaw.
Capio.
Want to use the fire starter? Look.
Where's my beverage? Here it is.
Try it. There you go, kitty. Fire starter for you.
Go smoke in the back. That'd be a nice change of pace. There we go. Okay. There. That's a nice background. What? Why the shortage of educational meow meow meows? If you, as soon as somebody else says something, I'll look at the chat again when it pops up again. And we'll see what it says. Maybe it'll say, "Welcome to a new America, one built Ford tough." What's interesting is reading about Bass Lake and Oakhurst. Uh, Apparently, where Kramer and I went, apparently it's one of the best fishing spots in California for a certain kind of salmon, but it's not that season right now. Bass and trout, three different kind of trout in there too. Apparently, it, it's quite a pop in spot for fish, and I could see why it would play out like that because nobody from the Bay Area is going to go there. It's too far, and they've got closer alternatives. The closest big city that might go there would be Fresno, but they also still have even closer alternatives. And um, you you kind of can't get through. Like Tioga Pass is closed like 9 months out of the year, so you can get over that way into there. So it's probably not as crowded as a lot of good fishing spots might be, you know. And then if we want to get more remote away from people, the Bagby recreation area is like it's it's a Mariposa County rec area that connects to Lake McClure, but um, if you're actually trying to drive to Lake McClure, it takes a lot longer than it takes to Bagby. So if you go to Bagby and get like a little inflatable raft or something, you can float down the river there to Lake McClure. When Rachel and I went and saw that Bagby area last time we were here earlier, would you ever try mushrooms to explore the mind? I mean, I do mushrooms all the time. I did mushrooms yesterday. Um, they do make me more insightful, but I don't know if that qualifies as exploring the mind. Mushrooms can teach me things too, actually, surprisingly. Because I was making fun of this strain of mushrooms, or not strain, I guess. Yeah, I guess it's a strain, but called Loving Teacher. But then, the other when I got some mushrooms from Oakland the other day, like last week or something, last Sunday I think it was. Uh, I didn't have a very good day that Sunday. It wasn't like I don't bad trip on mushrooms. It's just I sometimes get nasty or I throw mushroom tantrums when when things are difficult. I can't figure them out. I'm trying to do stuff. I shouldn't be trying to do stuff in general. So thing is, I eat so many mushrooms that my mushroom trips are well. There's not a whole lot of visuals going on at any point in my mushroom trips unless I eat a shit ton of them. Like I'll probably eat them again tomorrow. You should leave multiple days in between. Maybe I'll skip tomorrow because I took havaklonopin yesterday and it's got 72-hour half life. And benzos are trip killers. Anyway, but what I figured out finally about mushrooms also, and I highly recommend this to everybody who's going to take mushrooms. Don't actually eat the mushrooms, okay? You just boil it in a pot of water. Boil it down until it's like 1 cup of water. Drink that. It doesn't even hardly taste bad at all. It almost tastes like tea. And it works great. It makes you much less nauseous than eating the actual mushrooms. It's water soluble. Unlike marijuana, you can't make marijuana tea like that. It won't work. But you can with psilocybin. So, yeah, I read that at the church, the church I go to buy mushrooms. they said, they had a sign that said, no, you do not have to eat these. You can boil them and make tea. And I will never eat them again because they're so disgusting. You know, nobody in their right mind, frankly, would eat those gross ass looking things. But you know, watching a lot of Naked and Afraid has it always makes me think about how wimpy I am. You know, like those people that go like days without any food at all, like not even one bite of food for days. Like how in the hell could you do that? They're naked outside. It's like cold and they're trying to like make their shelter better and like the wind's blowing and it's super freezing in their half-assed shelter and they're huddling by the fire. It's like, man, I would quit so fast. Oh, Mr. Bobby. And
That's probably I had to replace them at my client's house, like all of them, because all of them every room, and despite me going through the whole house, replacing like 8 9 volt batteries on the ladder, still they would beep. Until
Yeah.
I bought new smoke detector.
I think that's what's gonna happen because I found in the room up here, 3 smoke detectors that were taken down. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes total sense. Now back to our host Eric.
they don't win anything actually. Well, I think you know the ones who are on these like XL ones who are legends who've had like done it multiple times. They probably get or like pay like actors, I would guess. They have this 60-day challenge we're currently watching where they're spending 60 days in the Louisiana swamp. Yeah, they blur everything. They blur both parties' genitals and they blur women's breasts. But they don't blur butt cheeks. They don't blur man nipples.
Nope.
They start with a little bit of gear. They start with they can bring a couple of items. Like it depends where they are. Sometimes they give them a pot as well if they're in like a super hot area, so they can boil water. But they usually have a fire starter and a machete. One of them will bring like something else, like paracord or fishing hook and line, and maybe a tarp or something. But you know, usually they'll bring like a hatchet. One of them will have like a hatchet. One of them will have a machete. They'll have a fire starter, and maybe one hunting or fishing weapon, like a bow and arrow or fishing stuff, but not both. In this instance, like most of the teams were all in this season and we're watching now, the teams were all allowed to choose from a set of selected choices. And some of them went with the gator hook with paracord, and some of them went with the bow and arrow.
Mm.
But, you know, yeah, I mean, if they had no gear at all, they'd be screwed. Sometimes people don't bring fire starters because they're confident in their ability to start a fire with a wood bow. But usually it takes them like a week to actually get a fire started. So Ruben R says an acquaintance of his is going to be on the new Naked and Afraid. His name's Justin.
Oh my gosh.
That's exciting.
That is exciting. What a coincidence.
The thing is, here's the thing that nobody seems to be able to tolerate for very long. Shit tons of mosquitoes.
Yeah, bug bites seem to be.
Do they get mosquito nets in like the rainforest ones?
Yeah, sometimes people bring mosquito nets.
It's a choice. It's not like you for sure get this like a pelt.
Nope, you don't for sure get it.
You get to choose a couple of things.
Yeah, so I think they know where they're going. They know the location. Because like I've heard some of the naked infrators talk about, yeah, when I was found out that we were going to like Panama, they're known for this snake. So they have some sort of idea what to bring with them.
That's pretty important, I think.
Yeah.
And then guess who's getting nutria itch on the live stream? Guess who? Somebody already is gonna get nutria itch.
Who? Me?
No, one of the viewers. One of the viewers gonna get nutria itch.
Oh, lots of mud all over my body.
Oh, it's Ian.
Ian.
That's how you get nutria itch. Now, nutria itch is like a ringworm you get on your ball sack from swimming in the swamp. Jeff Shaw says, Eric is an island exposed to north, south, east, west. His choice. Kind of think he is finding a harbor on the mainland. A good thing with the Great Lighthouse. I mean, I'm used to being exposed. It's an accurate observation that I'm very much exposed. I make a lot of media, and a lot of it is about stuff, ideas or whatever, but unavoidably a lot of it is about me and what's going on with my life, you know. There's Cameron over there, ISTJ Cameron, INFJ Rachel, and a little old host Eric, ENTP. And Cameron's been, of course, a lifesaver, as he always is when he comes up here, because like he's motivating us to go in the garage, do some stuff, get things organized, and in fact, we got like we haven't gone through all the boxes. We got everything put away, and well, it's just the way we're sitting here is not really feasible to both get us all on camera and have it close enough for the audio to be okay. So that's why we got it set up like this. If I asked them before we started, do you guys all want to be on camera and we can go move the kitchen table? And they said, no, it's not necessary. Well, I was planning on live streaming the way I normally do tonight, but there's one cable I can't find, which is the cable that goes from the audio card to the microphone. Yes, I have a lavalier mic that Cameron gave me, but that would just be good for one person anyway, not for more than one person. So I need to find a couple of cables still. I need to find that one cable that goes from the sound card to the laptop, and I need to find the long mic cable. Then I'd be able to, what I was planning to do is stereo micing this and having this also at the kitchen table. But since that fell through because I couldn't find those, it's like we get all the stuff here, and I'm like, oh, let's go fishing. Of course, what we need to do is go through this stuff, right? So I can find all the fishing gear and everything. So I said that yesterday, let's go fishing, and we didn't. We just ended up working on the garage all day, like getting the containers from the pod that had been put in the garage separated out, and we're not even done at all, but those things will turn up. I'm not worried about it. And then if they don't, I'll buy a new one of those cables, Yeah, he doesn't want to be too far away from his necessities. And the Fed, I don't necessarily have a problem with there being a Federal Reserve bank, but I don't like the way that they infuse new currency into the economy. And I think that there's no reason not to infuse it directly as cash payments to individuals. It wouldn't be inflationary because it represents added wealth of the country, and it would be a more fair way to quantitatively ease. If the Fed were to do that, I wouldn't have any problem with the Fed. It's it's not necessarily a bad thing that we've separated out our currency manager from the government. So at least the Federal Reserve is a bank. I trust banks to make wise financial decisions more than I trust government agencies. No, it doesn't work like that, Ian. It actually doesn't work like that at all. The thing is, you got to remember that wealth is first and foremost, before it's ever anything else, purely metaphysical. It's constructed of beholdens. Every time, no, they don't run the government. That's wrong, Ian. Every time an individual does useful work for another person, they increase the total amount of wealth in the world abstractly, metaphysically. The the government, the state needs to infuse more and more currency into the economy because the country's getting wealthier and wealthier. There needs to be more currency to represent that added wealth. I don't like the way they infuse it into the economy, but that's something that's can be addressed without getting rid of the Fed. And conspiracy theories and stuff like that are not accurate for things like that. Yes, it's certainly plausible and conceivable that groups of parties with wells of power conspire and such, but it's incorrect to think that there's some sort of puppet master behind. I would just infuse the new currency as checks, whatever the total amount of new currency in a given year needs to be infused into the economy, divided by how many American citizens there are, and send them each of them a check for an equal amount. That would be a better way to do it. It wouldn't be inflationary, and it would be redistributionist in a way that is positive rather than regressive. Most progressive economic policy is actually regressive, such as the progressive tax is regressive because the richer you are, the better you are at avoiding paying taxes. Because, of course, if you try to make your tax code progressive, then you end up with 14,000 pages of tax code. It's impossible for it to end out any other way because, of course, if you're trying to means test people for how much money they need to contribute to the common good, you're going to have a disaster on your hand. That's why we have this whole industry of people whose jobs it is to help you file taxes and pay as little as possible and get as much back. This is why we have an IRS that sometimes they get all audit happy, and then it depends on lots of different things. The best conceivable federal taxation approach is one that involves a federal sales tax. Yeah, a federal sales tax would render the IRS unnecessary. It's naturally progressive, which is to say, people who spend more money pay more in taxes, right? People who buy luxury items and stuff are going to pay more in taxes. No, I definitely have a point, Jeff Shaw.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody who was listening to me could hear what my point was. Yeah. That the nature of individual human beings and the limitations of each individual human being, the limitations of hierarchies to control parties beneath them is inversely proportional to the amount of individual liberty in the civil society one has, right? Anyway, the point is, I definitely have a point. It's not like I'm just talking out my ass and saying nothing. My point is understanding that individual human beings, there is nobody smart enough to predict cascading actualized impacts, right? Anytime you take a course of action and complete an impact, it's going to have rippling impacts outwards that you cannot predict, unintended consequences. And if you've justified your course of action by appealing to impacts, well, you're doing it the wrong way. You know, only after you've determined that you met all your prima facie burdens like inherency, etc. No, I'm not babbling. I'm trying to explain something to you. If you aren't able to keep up with my explanation, that's okay. Not a lot of people can't keep up with my explanations. But don't mistake your inability to keep up with it for me not saying anything. He might be an ENF. He's definitely TI polar. The thing is, the way we know he's TI polar with 100% certainty is that weird definition thing he did, where he tried to prove that I was lying when I said he was dumb, because he had 3 definitions of dumb, all of which meant mute, as in blind, deaf, and dumb. This antiquated definition that nobody uses anymore, when I clearly didn't intend to I didn't intend to use the word to mean he was mute, right? I meant he was not smart. And he concluded that he had proved I was lying because he pulled out 3 definitions from like 1800 that referred to it as mute. Now that's a very TI polar thing to do. The FE 6 slot is pretty clear, yeah. I mean, 6 slot FE is gonna have a lot of affective cues, which is to say it's going to be active and bad, right? So the government is not a Ponzi scheme. That's ridiculous. I don't want to be his friend. What does he have to what about him would possibly appeal to me? Like, why would we be friends? He's clearly got issues with me, and what do we have in common? Like, not much, right? He's active in making media, I guess, but what's lacking is insider quality, really. I'm both insightful, and when I'm trying to be funny or when I'm in a mood, I'm actually funny. But I'm not constantly trying to make jokes, right? Like right now, I'm just talking about stuff that I have thoughts about. I'm not in a particularly hilarious mood or anything. So the thing is, there's a lot of holistic stuff. I was thinking the other day that you can't really say, no, there's never anything to back it up. That's always been an illusion, like a gold standard or something. It's just moving the arbitrariness over here from over here. It doesn't change anything. What needs to occur is that the state needs to infuse the economy with more currency to keep up with the total amount of wealth being generated in the country. People generate new wealth all the time, and it needs to be reflected in the total pool of currency. Wealth is a metaphysical phenomenon that occurs when people do useful work for one another. And we get paid now by the person when we do the work. But the thing is, that's zero sum, right? But the fact that useful work was done creates more of this metaphysical quality of beholdens that we call wealth. Well, so as a consequence, yes, gold has utility, but that's not why it's valuable. It's valuable because it works so ideally as a currency. It's very scarce comparatively to other kinds of things. It's very distinct. It's heavy, especially heavy, gold looking. It's it's impossible to counterfeit, um, and et cetera, right? So it naturally makes, because people engaged in any kind of economic activity, starting with bartering, are going to immediately need some kind of fungible form of wealth. And what does a fungible form of wealth have to have? It has to have all the necessary qualities of a currency. It needs to be um, divisible. It needs to be not counterfeitable. Those are the two most important things. And it needs to be, the not counterfeitable part ensures the scarcity part, as long as you're not dealing with something that's too common. So it needs to be scarce, non-counterfeitable, and divisible. Those are the three qualities a currency needs. Gold and silver are both perfect for those things, as is platinum. But the fact that it's useful is going to maybe push the price of it up, but it's not why it's valuable. They don't just know how to end the strife between them. So many marbles they're staring at, going, oh, those are pretty. Who doesn't know how to end the strife between them? There's no strife between me and Club ENTP. I mean, he wants to control the narrative of him and me, quote unquote, but he's never going to be able to successfully pull that off. And I don't view it as strife. I view it as an example to use for myself as I figure out how to communicate more effectively. Like, how can I communicate to him what's abundantly clear to me, right? He's definitely TI polar. There's no disputing that. That definition thing is as classically TI polar as it gets. Only TI polar could possibly think that by simply choosing to define dumb according to its 1800s definition, they've proved me to have been lying when I called them that. It's such a brazenly obvious equivocation fallacy that only TI polar could possibly do it. Yeah, polar 7. Well, I'm not just communicating to him, I'm communicating to everybody. He's an example of a type of person that's difficult to convey information to, who doesn't understand explanations well. But I still would like the world to benefit from the truth of these ideas, regardless of whether they're good at understanding explanations, right? So my challenge is to communicate in ways that can be meaningful to people who hear those communications, even if they can't understand the explanations. And not being able to understand the explanations is something that he gives me examples of what that looks like. So that's useful. I'm curious about him because I'm not sure what's going on with him, right? Like, I would never watch somebody I don't like. I never watch him, but he apparently continually spends a lot of time watching me. It would seem evident from all the various things he references when talking about me that he's watched a lot of me. And so that's weird to me, because I would never watch something I don't like. He clearly doesn't like me. And I have a lot of people who are haters like that, who clearly don't want to engage with me like straightforward people, but want to take me down a notch. And I get why they want to take me down a notch, because I'm the fastest gun in the West, Everybody wants to have a showdown with the fastest gun in the West. Can't put on a jacket properly, but especially if the fastest guy in the West is not good at avoiding saying that, it's not good FE to call you to toot your own horn. I don't believe that's what I'm doing usually. I believe usually what I'm doing is trying to establish things that we can sink our teeth into argumentationally. And when I get pushback, a lot of times I'll try to explain why it's not unreasonable for me to say, like, this is the exclusively right explanation, and right now this is the only place where you're getting the right explanation and stuff like that. People really don't like to hear that. And I mean, I agree with them that it seems impossible. Well, why you, Eric? How would that happen? That you, of all the people, are the one person to get this right. Around here, we're getting it right, but everybody else is wrong. So it's a perfectly reasonable question to ask, and it's perfectly understandable why people who don't, haven't, or don't want to, or won't, or whatever, spend a lot of time listening to my explanations. It's it's easy to see why if they're not really good at deliberating about those explanations independently of heuristics. In other words, they're using rules of thumb instead of actually parsing it all out to see if it checks out. Well, I mean, obviously they're going to be very skeptical. It's the only sensible conclusion to draw about it is statistically it's extremely unlikely that this one guy is right and everybody else is wrong. And normally things don't play out like this. When you're dealing with MBTI shit and you got all these different interpretations, it looks just like astrology. Astrology is also like that. Oh, just infinite interpretations and all equally good. Well, it's true about astrology, but it's not true about cognitive functions. But I don't blame people for being skeptical because it certainly looks exactly the same from the outside. I'll be right back. I'm going to get a drink. Okay, so here she is, Miss America. Isn't she lovely? Well, it is true about astrology, though. I mean, there's no good reason to believe that there'd be any linkage at all between the day and time of your birth and your personality. And in fact, if you look at any single person's chart, it's it's always going to be like display you'd expect. Some things hit perfect, some things hit some things don't hit at all, right? So it's always going to play out like that. It always does, and that's proof right there that it's not a model that's worth anything as an explanation. Like I said the other day, it's perfectly fine to use astrology to make decisions. If you have really strong intuition, you can make decisions with any kind of woohoo thing that you want to incorporate because you're really using your intuition, and that woohoo thing is just an anchor point. If you've got good NI, I mean, as it's a conscious function or something, then fine. It's a good way to make decisions. It's how we bought this house, actually. Rachel picked this house or picked this area, this part of the state, based on some astrology location app. And then the house itself, well, it was just obviously the best deal around here and the most what we wanted. It was just exactly right. So, the astrology app was correct in that we ended up in the right place area, and why did we get this house? It was because it's relatively easy to shop for a house in such a small county. There aren't that many houses for sale in Mariposa at any given time. And when this one, when I found this one, after it dropped its price $90,000, I, I noted, oh, hey, this just dropped its price that much. And I talked to the realtor, and he's like, I'm shocked that it's that much, and et cetera, et cetera. Then it became a no-brainer. We wanted to get this house, you know. But the reason Mariposa is where we're at is because of Rachel's astrology app on our phone. Not a good way to explain something, but a perfectly fine way to make a decision. A lot of times when we're trying to make decisions, we have too many choices, too many options, too many variables to make any kind of rational calculation about what the best decision is. So, what you do is you have some deal breakers and just let intuition and something else uh, actually provide the decision making engine. So I don't know if I already said this earlier on the live stream, but yeah, I think I did. It turns out the guy who built this house is responsible for the water tanks and the water system for this little neighborhood, which was only put in 2000. Prior to 2000, there's a lot of houses that are way older than that here. But prior to that, everybody was on well water. So, so obviously the guy who put in this rad water system for this little neighborhood also it was good at designing things and thinking really good TENI for sure. Not probably TESI because it's just too intuitively. It has too clear an intuitive vision. Like my dad's house after the remodel when I was like 18, it was a mess of compromises. The whole idea of remodeling itself was a compromise. He didn't want to level the whole thing to the ground and build a new house from scratch. So he ended up mostly leveling the house and half-assedly. I don't know. I did not like that. What happened at that house in that remodel at all? The house was perfectly fine prior to the remodel. They didn't need to remodel it. It was a lovely home and it had a lovely backyard. But my dad wanted decks and to kill everything that dropped anything on his grass, and not to shit talk my dad. Was a wonderful man, and I'm very grateful to him for his ways because I benefited from them. But the point is, I don't think my dad could have ever designed a house as intelligently designed as this one is. So, like for example, the washing machine drains outside of the house, but not into the septic tank, which is smart. Means longer time before you have to empty the septic, which was emptied right before we bought the house. And the neighbor Les said like every 10 years, all you got to empty these septics. So, that's pretty cool. One problem we still got to address is the bathtub in the upstairs bathroom is leaking. It's like a bad leak, right? Uh, but I think what we're going to do is, since I cannot seem to get a plumber out here, I've tried every plumber in Mariposa and one in Oakhurst. I could try another Oakhurst plumber maybe, but I cannot get plumbers out here. So I was thinking maybe looking it up online, see if like you buy a new bathtub. They're called like alcove tubs. There's not room for a big bathtub up there, but if those prefab alcove tub units have like 3 sides of wall on them, they come detached and you install them like that. I bought one of those at Home Depot. Maybe they could sell a package deal where they bring it in and install it here. and and then in that situation, because I suspect if I do get a plumber out here, it'll just be as simple as you need to replace this whole unit. I can't get to where the problem is, um, since it seems to be on around the bathtub drain or something. Could be a washer, could be an O-ring or something, but uh, I don't know. I haven't quite decided yet what we're gonna do. So that's one problem we still have to resolve. But other than that, we've basically gotten everything set up. The trash finally came on Friday. They're supposed to come on Monday. Then they're supposed to come on Wednesday. Then they finally came on Friday because we're a new account. The official trash day is Monday again, which we need already because we've got this. They left a lot of stuff here that we're going to get rid of. Cameron was very helpful with organizing and stuff. He's really good at that kind of stuff, and I'm not very good at it. I said to him, and he was asking me in the garage, like, where should I was like, Cameron, why don't you just give the orders here, and I'll put things where you tell me to put them, because I'm not gonna pick a good place. And it's like one time I overruled them. I realized shortly thereafter that he was right. I was like, yo, baby, put those extra paper towels and stuff in the pantry closet in the hallway. And he had said he thinks they should go in the garage. Well, yes, of course he's right. We need the pantry for the pantry stuff. And we got too many extra paper goods because we brought like all my dad's extra paper plates, paper towels, and shit that he had stacked up. So we need to put those in the garage for storage instead of in the pantry closet. So, I'll probably end up having to move all that stuff from the top shelf of the pantry closet now and put it in the garage like he said in the first place. Let me go inside so we can read the chat. You want to come inside too, Trouble Bubble? Oh, Mr. Kitty Man. The people want to see your kitty ways. There you are. There you are in your kitty ways. He's such an outside kitty. He just loves being outside a lot. He'll come inside and sleep for from 6 or 7. He'll come inside. He's scared of Cameron, so that kind of makes him a little more skittish when Cameron's here. But he likes to go to bed early and then get let out of the house like in the middle of the night, 3:30 or 4 in the morning or something, Okay, let's see here. Eric, explain to me how you play into his coercion demonstrates TI tool. I do not understand that question. So you have to rephrase it. Well, I mean, Jeff Shaw, I allow everybody to touch my nerve. I'm allowing you to touch my nerve right now. My belief is in communication. My belief is in language. I think that because what I'm saying is true, just, good, and righteous, that no harms can follow from that. And yet people want to give me a lot of pushback sometimes. I see all of those opportunities as opportunities to make my case. I don't see them as problems. When somebody is being toxic, then I'll boot them. But until they reach that threshold, I tend to see their difficulty as a prompt to strengthen my case or approach it from with a different set of wordings to maybe make clear to people what I'm talking about better, you know? No, Buffett, you're wrong about that. If you're saying Club ENTP has FE high up front stack, you're wrong about that. No TE polar, no FE polar. I'm sorry, no TI polar person has FE front stack. No, it's not. It doesn't work like that, Ian. I've already explained it. I don't want to explain it again. Watch time and thought time can be similar things. You're still putting in some level of participation. Oh, yeah, well, of course I'm participating. I mean, we talk about all kinds of things around here. If somebody's interesting enough to talk about or exemplifies something that is, it's going to get talked about. That doesn't make me a slave to that person. It doesn't mean they're leasing space in my head or whatever. It means they've attained some kind of relevancy. You know, probably not the relevancy they wanted to attain, but nevertheless some kind of relevancy that makes talking about it worthwhile. What do you think would happen if people had a perfect understanding of others' intentions and arguments? Would there still be problems from bad actors? Well, only some people are cognitively designed to understand things. Most people aren't. So, what I mean by understand things is to fully understand things is to have the right frame and have your case validated under that frame. Eric, I'm a fan. You're a smart man and very much dedicated to common good. Like how you are working on finding solace. Solace, huh? I don't think I would call it solace, but I am working on healing. You know, the world damages us all, and it's not for none of us is it easy to move through the world because everybody's operating under a fundamentally false assumption that individuals are each an example of one thing, a human being, rather than each example of one of 16 things, the types, which is a vastly superior way of looking at things and prevents a lot of the ontological harming of each other that we do all the time. Even the most well-intentioned people do it all the time. I've been booted from dozens of channels that never host Eric, so anyone can take legitimate criticism of host Eric. Thank you, men like gods. I very much appreciate you saying that. That was like a giant censor rant. You can start small and check all the things that you can reasonably get to, and if you determine it's a bigger problem, then you want to handle it and get a professional. I mean, Cameron looked at the upstairs bathtub and said it was sort of beyond the scope of his stuff, so it's definitely beyond the scope of mine. Doesn't the performer archetype line up best with high FE? But, well, no, not necessarily. My FE's third, but I definitely like being on stage in front of people, you know, being the guy at the podium, one way or the other. So it's also the case that action types like action, and making YouTube videos is mostly action. It's less interface, right? Like this is the most interfacey YouTubing gets is in a live stream where I'm engaging with other people's chat. In theory, you could actually, I guess, it gets more interfacey if you have more than one person having a conversation in live. Then it gets more interfacey. But no, I did not trip today. I said that comment about watch time after you called him weird for allegedly watching your videos still. I don't think I called him weird. I said I find it weird. No, I mean I'm an actor deliberator, which means when I start making a video, generally, there's some things I've been thinking about and have drawn conclusions about. So, for example, I made this video the other day about lying and uploaded it. It was because I had been thinking a lot about whether one can actually claim, as Kant does, that morality that it is wicked to lie. And I concluded that no, that's not going to be the case for the reasons I articulated in that video. I do have my guitar at hand, sort of, but it's still wrapped up in bubble wrap. I probably can't play Gregory, and I'm going to need to practice it a bit. I have been not playing the guitar at all for months now, and I tend to forget how to play my own songs after a little while. I don't practice them a lot. So I will unwrap it, and I will play a song or two before we call it a night here. Let me address this thing. Show Media says, hello, you got all your stuff from the move and the dolls. Nice. Did you trip today? Yes, we did get all the dolls and stuff from the move, and that was nice. It's nice to see Tiffany again. She's right here. I right here. I was fishing today. I found the lake, and all the waters and fishes belong to me.
They do.
Of course they do. I just came first.
Finders keepers.
The law of nature. Anyhow. Well, sure. I mean, the thing is, in the live streams, I like live streaming a lot because it lets me do third slot FE stuff. I mean, it lets me be selfish about FE. I'm the one on stage. I'm the one getting feedback from people, and it allows me to interface without getting interrupted, right? Because the chat, I can choose to read things or not. Yes, this is Tiffany is naked. I've already have half of the things to be naked and afraid. I just need to figure out how to be afraid. Well, the thing is, Alex T, that's a very deliberator question to ask. Interfacers want multiple parties to take sort of equal turns of the talking space. So, interfacers recognize that you can really only have a conversation with like 4 people maybe total, right? You plus 3 others. In which case, there's a sharing of the talking space, etc. And there's a lot of yaddy yaddy bloddity bloddity. I don't know what I was saying. I don't know what I was getting at. I think it's time to roll a joint. Roll another one? But you have a half-smoked one right here, Eric. Okay, I'll smoke this one. I'm finally getting mostly over this chest infection I had. Polar SE workarounds. Well, it depends whether you're INFP or INTP. INTP's the best workaround suggestion I would have is something they probably already do to a certain extent, which is make yourself suffer FE harms if you don't complete something. Uh, because both INTPs and INFPs don't like bad memories. They're trying to keep their SI clean. They don't want to have any mistakes there. Remember, INTPs especially though, because of the FE fourth instead of the TE fourth. They they want to keep a clean sheet, and that means that they're hesitant to do things because when you actualize or concretize a given idea, then the actuality of it is going to, for you to feel certain that you can anticipate all the outcomes of the actuality of it, you have to act on a very narrow, conscribed little area, you know. Take care, Jeff Shaw. Layla Tav. Have you seen that INFP lady on here, YouTube? No, I don't. I have not seen her. Yeah, with INFPs, it's a little different because they got TE fourth. So INFPs, what they should do is work on trying to be as efficient as possible, because then they have to do less and can accomplish some outcomes anyway. INFPs also have the advantage of knowing what they want much more clearly than INTPs do. So that empowers them to be more successful at taking action and actually concretizing things than INTPs. And of course, lacking fluency in the subjective epistemics. Who was it? Carmen Spamp corrected me on this. It's like you're using the wrong word. You shouldn't be saying epistemologies. You should be saying epistemic. In other words, their means of running their epistemologies. Okay. Yes, you're right, I guess. You're right. Especially if I use it as an adjective, I should use the adjective form. I love hearing people with TI DOM share how TI works for them on a daily basis. Love for you to do a video on that. Well, I'm not a TI DOM, but I mean, the thing about being a TI DOM is one of the differences between ENTPs and INTPs is for me, it's a tool function. It's how I do business, right? For INTPs, it's who they are. So they don't necessarily feel a particular obligation for their intellectual work to benefit anybody. In fact, it's instrumental, right? That they get recognized, not an absolute value. And their absolute values are correctness and them keeping track of what's correct for themselves. So there's probably a lot of INTPs out there who've got some genius shit in their heads that they just never makes it out onto a page or into a video or even, you know. I think INTPs are most susceptible of all types to failure to launch. Jesus wasn't remembered for being nice. What was he remembered for?
What type was he?
I don't know.
Oh, Eric.
I don't know. Probably maybe an INFP. How about TI as a second or third function? As an FI user, that function is so mysterious. Well, as a tool function, like I use it, it means I'm continually in my communications wanting to pin down people onto their binaries. So, well, we were watching Naked and Afraid, and there's this guy named Boulette, and he was having conflict with this lady named Gwen. And in that particular instance, I could really see both sides. It seemed like kind of a wash. By and large, I don't view things like that, and I don't like to view things like that. It, regardless of whether the interests of the two parties are a wash, the the correctness should not be. Of course, depend if you're talking about super concrete shit like particularist subjective stuff, like whether we should solve this problem this way or that way, and both are viable solutions. It's it's hard to say who's right or wrong. In that instance, I guess Gwen was in the right because Boulette uh, sounded like he agreed to her schedule for these hunting blinds, and then he didn't show up at the agreed upon time. But I also got his point because you know her reasoning for why they needed to do it this way was yeah, and and also she really wanted to say basically, if you're going to be over here in our area, you're going to adhere to the rules we currently have as we're doing things. But he was also explaining to them that he was going to be an independent operator from them. He didn't want to work with them. So it was like, it was a complicated thing. I could see both sides in that one, and neither party was exactly right or wrong. I don't like things like that. TI tool means you typically see everything as divisible into this component, at least this person is right about this person's right about this, that person's wrong about this, that person's wrong about this. Like to determine statuses of things that are binary and either conditional, contingent, permanent, whatever. I think maybe this bong needs a little bit more water in it. I just gotta remember not to tilt it. And the thing is, of course, when I was chatting with my friend Liz, who's an INFP back in Arcadia, she was trying to tell me, like, but Eric, when you don't include feelings in your calculations like this, and you're leaving out half the population because she thinks all women are like her. Of course, in the absence of a correct map of people have incorrect maps and all sorts, different sorts of incorrect maps. Like that emotionality links to women and being chicks instead of personality type. Now, it may be the case that more chicks are Fs, I don't know if that's the case or not, but regardless, the point is that's just a incidental data point. It's not relevant at all to anything. The actual cause of emotionality is type, not gender. And regardless, as I was trying to explain to Liz, it's true that I'm not including a lot of these subjective epistemics, but it's also true that I'm limiting the scope of what I'm saying to such stuff that can correctly be parsed into binaries, black and white thinking. Not everything's subject to black and white thinking, but I'm only talking about stuff that is. That's a TI tool. I mean, if you got a hammer, naturally you keep hitting nails all the time, right? So, and that's another weird phenomenon that occurs with cognitive functions that muddies the water. Is cognitive functions appropriately is parsed logically as into binaries, statuses, and stuff. It's the right area for that. But discursive parsing is an area where lots and lots of people have Dunning-Kruger syndrome. They they have no idea what it means to analyze things meticulously and believe their analysis should be considered equally valid to somebody who does know how to do that. And of course, in the absence of existing literature in agreement by experts, like, there's plenty of literature online by many people in debate explaining various concepts from debate, perms, Ks. If you were to Google what is a K in policy debate, you get tons of results explaining Ks. If you were to Google what is a perm, you get tons of results, right? So, like, I have expertise in that as well, which is why I use this as an example. There's not a corollary for cognitive functions, which is what makes it so challenging. Is people cannot confirm what I'm saying by Googling it. And what makes it doubly challenging is that I'm telling them that. I'm saying, look, you're not going to be able to get any confirmation from any other sources that I'm right about this. In fact, if you try to check multiple sources in cognitive functions, which is normally a good thing, it's a bad thing here because everybody else is somewhat wrong. It makes for an almost insurmountable reality if you think about it. It's like, how does one successfully convey something that objectively everybody should dismiss immediately as incredibly unlikely and contrary to optimal operating procedures in terms of knowing things? If you use any heuristics at all, if you don't parse it all out yourself, what I'm saying, which means if you don't listen to me for a long time, have the attentional stack to parse it all out, and do it, then the correct conclusion would be Eric must be fucking crazy.
I'm gonna go to bed early.
Okay.
I love you.
Love you too. Good night.
I'm gonna watch.
Sleep well.
Thank you.
Good night.
I probably am not going to bed early, but I don't know if I'm going to be staying up super late. I don't know if I'm going to be live streaming super late, but I don't feel tired at all right now, actually. Like, what you'll notice, if you notice it at all, is actual INTPs never really pushed back around here. They ask questions to check to see if they found a spot of bullshit, and when I give them an answer that's correct, they just don't say anything usually. Because that's TI is who they are. They're not worried about showing it off to other people. It's not for other people. I don't have the conscious cognitive ability to be able to parse out the information the manner you do, so I just take your word for it. Well, the thing is, the more you listen to what I'm saying, even if you don't like follow everything, every single concept and get how it follows from the preceding or whatever, I should start dinging on more of your heuristics. So I certainly sound like I know what I'm talking about. And if you compare me against other parties, I think almost every viewer would say, if you were to take a random population of people who didn't watch anything about MBTI and had them watch some MBTI videos, and asked them not which one they liked best, but rather which person sounds most like he knows what he's talking about, I think I would win that by a large margin, just on that heuristic. Because, in sort of a vague sense, can tell at least this guy is speaking very fluidly and articulately about the subject, and he's not saying anything that triggers any of my I already know that's bullshit triggers. Like, so if I told you, and the Earth has 3 moons, you'd say, no, the Earth has 1 moon. But, and so, like, everybody has some body of knowledge that they can check against. And the longer you talk and don't trigger anything that says, well, that's definitely bullshit, then the more willing you become to accept that maybe this guy is not full of shit. The thing is, the initial claim that this explanation is the exclusively right explanation in a world so full of wrong explanations about the same thing is going to trigger, that's bullshit in most people. It's an outrageous claim in almost every circumstance. So, and at some point, people who are trying to understand things with good heuristic approaches, but not by parsing, are going to ask questions like, well, where did you learn this from? Or whose book should I read about this, where you got this information from? So stuff like that, And the answer is, well, it's like, you came up with the idea, and this is the final evolution of Charizard, No, I mean, if INTPs ask a question and you give a wrong answer, they'll correct you. They're not asking a question because they don't know the answer to it usually. They're asking a question because they think they see a hole, and they suspect you're gonna, or they think that you might answer this question like B. And if you answer B, then there's some bullshit going on here. But if you answer it A, you're fine. So then you answer it A, and then you're fine. Then they go, okay, fair enough. So what I thought was probably bullshit is not. No NTP is the gauge of correctness. What we are the keepers of the processes of correctness. So nobody can be right all the time, but you can take the right approach to being correct all the time. And that's maximally done really in the second slot function, which means it's done too much with the second slot. Your second slot is the tool function that excludes the alternative modality from any kind of conscious effectiveness. So because I'm so heavily TI in my parsing, I have blind spot of FI. And the point about NTP logic is it's mostly about what's not correct. The process of being correct is the process of eliminating everything that's not correct. And so, the idea that something will be complete and fully correct is always held out conditionally as a desirable outcome, but is not presumed to be assured at all. Um, it's always going to be the case that your conclusions are pending and accepting the introduction of better explanations that I haven't heard yet. So, no. It's a matter of what ought to be viewed as correct within a given frame, or which frame ought to be the right frame. Either of those two questions, or both the questions that are answered and asked by NTPs. So when people make affirmations of some sort, they have a claim or a position they want to state or an explanation they want to make. NTPs will ask questions to determine if they're using language correctly. If they're not, then their explanation can be tossed out the window. If they are, then their explanation has withstood muster for now, has withstood scrutiny for now. Everything's always subject to new evidence, new information, new idea coming in and displacing it. But not absolutely everything. So some explanations are complete and sound because the thing they're explaining is definitionally conscribed sufficiently that you can actually explain it in full. In other words, it's reducible. Lots of holistic things can't be reducibly explained like that. That's why if I say, oh, that was a sign from the universe that I should quit smoking, when the moving guy starts talking to me about how when he quit smoking and how it made him feel a lot better and stuff. Well, that statement can't exactly be wrong, nor can it be right. It's a sign from the universe, It's a holistic kind of thing that's not subject to that kind of status. It also can't be a lie, So for things like that are holistic and certain kind of dynamic systems, it's very difficult to explain them because explanations are processes of reducing things into binaries. If there's too much dynamism in a system, certain questions are inherently unanswerable because they try to demand of the answerer a more binary answer than the system permits to actually explain it. Well, sure. And the thing is, every ENTP in the world is going to be somewhat wrong because every NTP, because none of us, all people in the world are going to be somewhat wrong because none of us heretofore have had the right frame of reference nor the right specifics underneath that frame to actually explain reality and human consciousness and the differences between people. Now we have that, but only a tiny fraction of us have it, this information. Most of the people who have any information about the subject at all have wrong information and are using it as a toy, creating a lot of informational pollution along the way, rather than treating it as the actual Rosetta Stone for humanity, which it is. Jung figured it out. He grokked it, but he didn't provide any kind of adequate explanation. You need an explanation that's both sophisticated enough and operationalized enough that you can make a model out of it, simulate it, and test it. So that requires a certain kind of rigorous thinking. It's case building is what it is, and I am uniquely well designed and positioned to do that, and experienced to do that, right? Designed, positioned, and experienced. A confluence of all these three things made it such that in the environment of YouTube, where I had alternate other voices coming in and challenging things, operating as a testing ground for all these ideas, I had plenty of smart people come in and point out flaws of things, and I had to toss them out. I had a couple of attempts before I got it right. So the thing is, now with that, because of that odd confluence of multiple factors that created this It's like, there's no way I would have been able to figure it out either if I weren't so coddled, taken care of, and stuff. You got to have a lot of factors fall into place for the right party to come along and solve this problem, this intellectual problem. And uh, so that's what happened. But every other NTP on the planet pretty much is operating under a bad frame. Usually, it's the bad frame is this for the smart ones is there is no meta frame. That was my perspective prior to cognitive functions. There is no meta frame. That's what Zachary. I remember Zachary and I had this discussion one time. He persisted in that notion that it couldn't possibly be, but of course the way then I addressed that as to why it is possible, and he didn't say anything, which is what INTPs do when they agree with you or don't disagree. They just don't say anything in response. Yeah, it is still considered pop psychology, but in every incarnation of it other than here, there's a good reason for that. Because it's garbage. There's no rigor. There's no intellectually rigorous process to produce a robust explanation that actually withstands scrutiny. So naturally, all smart people are going to say that's nonsense. The thing is, smart intuitives though are drawn to it because they can intuit that there's something there, you know. But when I first started looking at cognitive recognition, I never dreamed it would come to define how I think about everything, or determine how I think about everything the way it has. That it would provide me all the answers that I'd been spending decades looking for, unsuccessfully. I never dreamed that would happen. You know, I'm a debate coach who sees arguments as modular, right? Which is counterintuitive to a metaframe. But nevertheless, there you have it. It explains everything, you know. It explains everything that about everything in psychology. It explains why psychology has been wrong in the various ways it's been wrong, and it explains how that or this or the other thing is a projection of their frame bias versus these kind of things being actual pathologies. There is no two-function model, of course, because people pay attention in 4 different ways. They know, they deliberate, they act, and they interface. All people pay attention in 4 specific attentional ways consciously. So for example, I'm right now inning. I'm just talking and expressing ideas as I'm coming up with them. In other words, I'm not operating from a script. I don't have anything memorized. I am right now currently being very TI tool, right? But I'm also somewhat aware of the fact that I need to have an inclusive tone and not be condescending or a dick when I'm negating things people say. So I'm attending to FE as well. That's an interface quality of the thing. I'll see if I'm successful based on how you respond to this. If you still insist on two-function model, then, well, you're going to be saying accordingly that, okay, I'm not going to give you your FE back. I'm not going to dance with you on FE. So and that would be your prerogative, of course. But the point is, I am incorporating that kind of attention as well. And additionally, I am paying attention to things like I'm kind of getting hungry a little bit. I'm paying attention to things like maybe I want a cigarette soon a little bit. You know, these are SI things. So what I'm not paying attention to, in contrast, is an NI thing. This video is about a ton of different things. I'm not paying attention to TE. This is not a good way to be a successful YouTuber, for example. I'm not paying attention to FI, except that I feel like doing this right now. So in that regard, I'm doing what I want, but like, it's not an exercise of holding something precious. It's a intellectual um, exercise. The feelings part of it are hyper unconscious for me. And note that I'm not actually doing concrete action out in the world. I'm talking on a live stream. Earlier, I went fishing. That was me doing SE when I was casting and stuff like that. Now, it's not ordered in any particular way. The first two functions define your relationship with all possible ways of paying attention. We call it front and back stack like that because the four functions that are conscious are the dominant, second, and what's implied by those. So because functions are on an axis, which is to say, two functions are exactly inversely proportional on some key element. Like the more I NE, the less I'm SIing, which is easy to see if you ask yourself, how much is Eric working with his existing resources? That is to say, am I editing good chunks from all these existing live streams so that they have a lot of pop and the short and they make me really successful and stuff like that? Well, what you see there is I'm spending, for every time I'm choosing to live stream instead of edit out shorts again and again and again and again and again, I'm producing an ever growingly, increasingly pile of existing resources that I can't possibly ever get through and process into something more useful, right? Instead of working on archiving my existing resources, I make new ones. And what are the resources? They're videos of me talking. Fortunately, I live in an age where I have this platform called YouTube that automatically archives everything I say. But even so, I don't even bother putting in good descriptions or anything like that. So there's no way for me to search it. Well, because if you're an NE DOM, you have to be ignoring NI. NI is a way of attention that is not creative, right? It's receptive. Instead of producing ideas continually, possibilities all the time, it's observing the external world and knowing about what it's observing. Obviously, you can't be listening while you're talking. You can't be receiving a pass while you're throwing one. That's why it's ignoring. You have to ignore that part of things in order to be who you are. Nevertheless, since it's the same currency, in other words, when you're being who you are very successfully, people who have NI at first are saying, that's resonating as true, that's resonating as insightful, that's resonating as whatever, right? So obviously, I have good NI, quote unquote, if you were to look at me as a third party and evaluate the quality of my intuition, I can demonstrate it because when NI is externalized, it sounds like a simple, powerful answer to a complex question. So since I'm talking about complex questions and occasionally making simple, powerful answers, people are going to say, I can think of plenty of instances of Eric attending well with NI. I'm not attending with NI, I'm creating things. And I am an intuitive, so inherently I'm creating intuitive things. When they're successful, it's because I get better at it. I'm an SI conscious person. I learn, you know. I get better at the process of making media. But the most important thing to remember, Boba Fett, is that there are 4 ways of paying attention that are distinct from each other. Action requires a deliberation function. if that's going to be your primary externality is an action function, and your primary epistemology is going to be a deliberation function. But that doesn't mean you won't have in your arsenal of life the capacity to pay attention to the third and fourth slot functions. You do pay conscious attention to those. You just don't prioritize them in terms of the amount of time you give them as much as you do your first or second functions. So the thing is, our most conscious unconscious function is sixth slot. And the reason is because it's your most it's because it's how you it's what you have to do to attain on your third slot function, given how selfish you are with your third slot. So because I only want to use FE like this little bit of FE here, in other words, I don't want to schmooze people. I don't want them to schmooze me. I just want them to be impressed by me and stuff, or think I'm smart or whatever. I want to have like this childish kind of relationship with perception management. So naturally, what am I going to have to do to compensate is provide interface in the other way. Since I'm not going to be able to be very good at asking other people to help me figure out shit or do things, I'm not going to like that at all, because I'm trying to be perceived as competent and intelligent and smart and whatever. So I'm going to invariably end up paying more attention to TE than I am any other conscious function. I mean, any other unconscious function. Unconscious. I misspoke. And I define conscious as consciousness of something, its capacity to remember instances of it. Of course, like for me, I could come up with countless instances of all my conscious functions, no problem. And I can come up with instances of my unconscious functions as well, but that's only because I spend so much time thinking about it, and I'm so detached from my process of being intellectually that rather than live my life like a sane person would, I spend my time trying to understand things. I'll spend my time, Rachel and I will be driving through all this natural beauty or whatever, and I'll be yammering her ear off, explaining why, meow, 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 meow. And it has nothing to do with anything, right? So some explanations are important. Lots of my explanations are totally not important at all. Like today I was thinking about what I would do, what I would say if somebody came and asked me for a fishing license that would not be a lie, but that would be misleading and maybe this was an FE. I came up with an FE thing basically in my head, which was all true, which was, well, I was planning on buying one at the tackle store, because when I was a kid, they used to sell fishing licenses at the tackle store, and it's been a while since I've been fishing. It has been a while since I've been fishing, not since I was a kid, and it's also the case that I don't remember seeing them sell fishing licenses in tackle stores lately. But nevertheless, it was true that I was planning to buy a fishing license at the tackle store, and I didn't have them. The reality is, and I didn't want to go back to some place where I suspected they would have them because I'd already passed that place. But it wasn't going to include that part. So I figured this out in my head today while I'm fishing, right? Anytime I'm doing anything that's slightly, even slightly illegal, I, I, I have, or even might be against some rules of somebody. I try to anticipate all those situations and come up with exactly what I'm going to say before it happens. And you almost never it happens, right? And sometimes it's ridiculous to even think about it. So, okay, but the thing is, what we may all do that to some extent, but what most people don't do is parse out whether or not they're going to be able to win the argument, you know. And that instance I gave today was not one of those things. It was an FE thing. Here's how I'm going to position things to make me sympathetic and maybe you get a warning, you know. So it's natural that you'd resonate with that, as everybody does that. That's your tool function. But that's not normally the kind of things I'm thinking about. It wasn't a very good example. Like, I mean, there were a lot more examples when I was living in Arcadia, when I was dealing with a lot of pushback from a lot of people over a lot of things. Then I had to know I was in the right about everything all the time, and do this pre-argumentation to make sure that I would actually win the argument if we were all parsed out, no matter what the thing was. Nowadays, things are different now. You know, things are different here. It's so much better than where we were. Everything about it is so much better. You know, it's we fit in here. Even I fit in here. Rachel could fit in everywhere, anywhere from other people's perceptions. But me, that's a bit of a challenge, you know. My FE's not that good, right? It's FE third. So I don't, so I get people who like me, people who very much don't like me. I'm an extrovert too, so there's gonna be a lot more of me in the metaphysical space than 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 somebody who's an introvert. And that makes me not popular with only some people, right? You know, likable to only some kinds of people. I think I'm more likable now than I used to be, but you know, it's always going to be a challenge area for me. It's just not my expertise. Now I gotta fix this thing over here. And I'm gonna push them, yeah. I'm gonna push them, yeah. I'm gonna push them both, and you see what it does. It's gonna do this. It's gonna do that. It's gonna do everything from that. If that's the case, why does everyone love FE inferiors if their names were Raymond? I mean, I don't think ISTPs are particularly loved, you know. I think ISTPs are most broadly considered the dicks. It's just like they're kind of dickish. INTPs are seen as a lot of times as unreliable um, because of SE polar, and that can harm them on an FE level. You know. Also, well, yeah, fitting in and feeling at home are different things. I I felt at home here right away, but like especially now, a couple weeks in, I feel very much at home. This place fits me like a glove, but fitting in is a bit more challenging than feeling at home. Uh, you got to have a somewhat eccentric population, and you know, this is not a particularly diverse place. Um, it's got an older population, and it's got a lot of people who are libertarian, probably the most libertarian county in the state. I'm not, I don't self identify as a libertarian, but uh, they tend to be less wrong about a lot of things. There's very, I haven't checked out the crime stats for Mariposa County, but I'm sure they're extremely low because it's the smallest county in the state and it's the least populous, as far as I know. You'd think ISTJs would sometimes come off as dicks because of FE poor, but honestly, not at all in my experience. They just seem sort of clueless, but in a weirdly endearing way. Yeah, I don't think ISTJs come across as dicks at all. I don't think FE polar makes you into a dick. Being a dick is an FE thing. You gotta have FE conscious to be a dick. Now you got ESTJs who are bossy with and with their super unconscious FE. Uh, huh? FE really? Well, do TI users get annoyed with FI DOMs like they're too mushy? Not necessarily. I think that TI users are more likely to get annoyed by FI tool function because in that case, there's gonna be a lot of clash. It's like I'm using TI to deliberate everything all the time. They're using FI to deliberate everything all the time. Some of the time, those two things are going to be in disagreement. And regardless, the TI and FI tool function users are going to think the other party's deliberating wrong. The thing is, if you have the right map, like if you understand cognitive functions fully enough, then you'd say, okay, well, let's look contextually and see what's the appropriate deliberation function for the matter at hand. Because there are plenty of times when the correct deliberation function is your own self-interest. That's what you should be using, right? So, like, I, even knowing this, I'm still very bad at including self-interest adequately in my calculations and things. So, that's to my detriment. But it is what it is. if you're evaluating being correct in the world, then that's great. If you're evaluating whether it serves your own self and your life and is a good thing for you or whatever, then it's a whole different question. And some people are really good at being individual people. Like Cameron's really good at it. He knows where all this stuff is at all times. He has this in this pocket, this goes in this pocket, that goes in this pocket. He is good at doing things like knowing where to put stuff. So, like I said before, he said put the paper stuff in the garage. I was like, well, it's put it in the pantry closet. Now I realize it doesn't go there. I need to put it in the garage. What the fook is going on? I use my FI in a logical way. I just based it on an internal moral system rather than a system of logical frameworking. Well, I mean, I guess the FI morality is putting yourself in the other person's shoes. If you can do that, you can better understand who they are and why they're saying what they're saying, rather than whether what they're saying is correct or not. Hi, Levi Samuels. Mac Daddy says, I'm bad at that stuff too, but I've lost too many things many of times, so I bought a purse so I'm not stuffing shit in my jacket pocket. I have a purse too. This is my purse. It's a manly purse. You see this Black & Decker on it? It makes it manly, so I can carry it. Now, what also makes it manly is what's inside. A bunch of little dolls. That's what I keep in my purse. It's where I keep my little dolls. You'd get even better at watching videos if you started dabbing. Dabbing? You mean like this? Oh, super Mike, I've been in that big metal box for like, I don't know, like months or something. It was less than 2 months. Oh, a long time to live in a metal box. Sorry, Tiffany, I'm sorry. I should never have put you girls in the pod. That was my bad. That was my bad. So it sounds like basically the rules for shooting guns in national forests is just go somewhere where there aren't any people and you can shoot stuff. Just don't like destroy the environment. You can target shoot all you want. You're not hunting anything. You're just shooting that rock over there or something. Maybe like put a pine cone up on a rock and try to shoot that or something. That's fine. So we'll go do that at some point. I'm not really into guns, but there might be bears around here. I don't think there probably are very many bears around here because most of the year there's not a constant water source around here that close. Like right now we have a stream running by the house, but that's going to dry up in the early summer. I mean, I'm a big believer in public land that is national parks or forests specifically. I'm a big believer in national parks and national forests. I love the fact that national forests have national forest rules and not California rules. Because if California were in charge of things, who knows what kind of ridiculous restrictive laws they'd make. Yeah, I know. I know there's bobcats. There may be some mountain lions, but mostly I think there's bobcats. And bobcats are plenty big enough to kill a cat. But, Trouble's a free minded cat. He's not interested in me telling him where to go, where to be, what to do. He doesn't want any of that from me. He wants to be respected in his autonomy. And I try to do that for him because, he's not a fully tamed cat, really. He's still half wild. And so, hopefully, being half wild means he's pretty savvy as well. Regardless, I'm not going to imprison my cat, nor am I going to supervise him, especially since he insists on being outside all day. So far, so good. That's all I can say. There's no alternative solution. I've done the best I can by this cat. He forced his way into my family, and I cost a lot of money to bring him up here and everything. It may be a more dangerous place for a cat to live, but that's all I can do. I've done everything I can to help that cat have a happy, good life, to love that cat as best I can, and I'm not going to make his life less good for him because I'm worried about him, right? He's his own guy. He's not my cat, right? He's Trouble. He's his own cat. Yeah, Trouble's a killer for sure. And Capillo is also has killed things plenty of times. Yeah, and it's interesting. The definition of wilderness is was defined by Congress as uh, places in nature that one visits but does not remain, which I think is a good definition. So, never kept my car clean or had a bag to carry shit around in misfortune. Keeping the car clean is a constant struggle because anytime you're on any drive of any length, you generate some trash. You generate every time you go through drive-through, right? Now I've got trash. What am I gonna do with it? I could keep it right here in the back, and if I get next time I come across a trash can, I'm gonna try to remember to get it and throw it away. Of course, you never remember, and then you have just more pile of trash to finally go like, there's so much trash in my car, and then you throw it all out. Uh, yeah, well, trouble has given us many dead things. Capillo one night brought me in a rabbit she had killed. It wasn't very big. It was like maybe this big, but it wasn't a baby, you know. It was very juvenile. And what's your record for fast food in the backseat? Oh my god, I don't know. I've had so many fast food bags in the backseat of my car. Probably the most commonly driven around thing in that car is empty fast food bags. Thing is, what do you end up throwing away, though? You always end up throwing away the drinks because otherwise they occupy your drink holder. And if you get a drink from McDonald's and you leave it in your drink holder for too long, the bottom will melt through and then you get all this liquid in the bottom of your drink holder. So it's unavoidable you throw away the drinks in the drink holder because you gotta put new drinks in the drink holder. However, the foot part of the back seat, well, rarely do people ride in the back seat of my car, so just me and Rachel. It's just like, well, there's a trash can. It's called right behind my chair. Yeah, I know, Mac Daddy. I've done that before too, but it's like, yeah, it is their way of saying thank you, but it's not really a present I want. Cats' love language, some cats have their love language is gift giving. And if that's the case, you're going to get a lot of dead little animals. I always try to protect them when, like, if I see the cat hunting like a lizard or something, I'll be all like, hey, leave that lizard alone. But, or I'll shoot the lizard to try to help it get away, you know? Come on, Bubbles, Bubbles. Come on, Bubbles. Let me come inside. Yes. Come on. Come on. Come on. Come on. What more food? Come on in. Come in. Okay, well, I'm not going to open the door for you. Trouble still skiing. Okay, I guess I'll go back outside for a second here. That cat. That's the problem right there, misfortune. Is you go, oh, this is a great idea, but then you realize one one fast food's worth of trash fills up that whole bag. Especially if you put the drink in there too. And then you go, well, why did I why did I even bother? Because now I just put this plastic bag that I filled up immediately with one fast food's worth of trash, and now I gotta take it. I might as well just throw the food trash away directly. Now I got this additional problem. I got cigarette butts gathering up in my car because since I'm not in LA, I'm someplace nice. I don't throw cigarette butts out the window. I've tried it before in the past, but it failed for some reason. I've stuck to throwing shit away in the grocery bags. It has made a tremendous difference. My car is never dirty. How is it going, Eric? Been a while. How's everything going for you? Oh, it's going fine. I'll have to look at your chest when I get back inside. It's too small to see. I gotta get my glasses. Oh, morale. Yes, Daddy knows. He knows what a wonderful kitty man you are. Eric just dumped us out. I didn't dump you out. I just went and got my glasses. They help me to see things. These are the powerful ones, I guess. I think these are the ones that are a little too powerful, actually. But if I just look at something I'm reading, it's fine. But if I try to look around it all, it's like, oh. I'm gonna quit smoking. I know it doesn't seem like it. Live streaming is going to be a challenging time for smoking. I'm used to doing this. I'm used to coming outside periodically when I'm live streaming, smoke a cigarette. What I need is like a a plasma trash incinerator. It's so hot it just vaporizes any objects you put into it, and vaporizes it so much that there's not even any smoke that comes out of it. It vaporizes the smoke even. Go on in, Trouble. Go on. Go on in. Go ahead. Go inside. Well then, get a compost pit going. Probably won't do that. To be effective in making a compost pit, you need to use a lot of fresh fruits and vegetables, and we don't. We're not like we eat at home way more than we did ever in LA. Even when we were broke, we ate out in LA more than we do now, because now it's like 30 minutes to get into a restaurant. So we mostly eat at home. But what we mostly eat at home is microwavable dinners, microwavable burritos, and we haven't even made. Well, we just got our pots and pans. Yeah, we live in Mariposa now. I'm Moxie. Jersey-Dale technically is the area where we live in. It was what it's called, but it's back here in the forest. So, like, we're very close to one of the national forests. I don't remember which one it's called, Superior or something like that. But it's not Yosemite. But when we bought this house in the forest, meow. You can probably see a little forest in the background there. It's got these covered walkways, which are nice. I absolutely love it here. That's how I like it here. I think it's perfect. It's like it's the best of all worlds. Here I am live streaming from the woods. I'm a rural customer, so it's like the post office has special rules for us. Like we can do all sorts of business with the mailman directly. We don't have to go to the post office, and yet we're not super isolated. We're an hour and a half from Fresno, 3 hours from. Maybe even less than 3 hours from the Bay Area. I don't remember. I guess it was 3 hours to Oakland. 3 hours back. 6 hours total that day, I guess. So, it's 3 hours from the Bay Area. And we're 4.5 hours from LA. The Mariposa is like the closest town really to the entrance to Yosemite National Park, the main entrance to it. And it's just a really cool place, Mariposa County. There are no cities in Mariposa County. There are no municipalities. There are no stoplights in the whole county, except for this one temporary one we got on Dara Road Bridge. A lot of people in the county affiliate or affirm the state of Jefferson movement, which is Shasta County and a couple other counties that are rural northern counties have a separatist movement where they want to break off and become the state of Jefferson from California. I don't think it's ever going to happen. I don't know. I don't really feel strongly about it either way, but it's that kind of place, We have a sheriff. There are no Shasta County. Yeah, I mean, they're the same. The sane counties want to split off from the insane counties. But the thing is, it would be kind of it'd be very difficult to get Mariposa included in that because you'd have to have like this weird state shape where it's the thin line that goes up from Mariposa up into Shasta and excludes everything on either side of the thin line. So it would be a strange shaped state if it included Mariposa County. We only have sheriff. We don't have any police department. There's I guess there's county fire, but almost all the fire station stuff around here is Cal Fire, so it's state fire department. It's not even county fire because it's a fire risk area. Like right now, everybody's doing prescribed burns. I'm gonna do one sometime soon. I've got the big pile of sticks in the backyard, in the back flat area down there that they piled up before they, in part, getting the house ready to sell, I guess, Well, now, and they couldn't burn it then because it wasn't burn season. Now it's burn season, so I need to burn that pile of sticks. I know how to do it. I've seen people doing it. My neighbor did a burn just yesterday or the day before. So, Cameron showed me, put a little bit of gasoline on it to get started. And the thing is, like, our garden hose stretches all the way down the down to that flat area. So, I've got fire suppression. It's designed that way, But at some point before fire season starts, I'll have to get homeowners insurance. So I know the population, there's 30-some thousand people in the county, which is smaller than the city I lived in LA called Arcadia, which had like 50,000 people in it or something like that. So, well, you just don't want a whole bunch of fire fuel around your house in fire country. But we should be fine because there were fires. No. Because there were fires the last 2 summers. So much of the fuel got burnt up. The area where we're actually in, though, right here, is not burn around us really. And there's lots of areas around us for us to drive a rural wilderness car that aren't burned. But regardless, we'll get to see the forest, parts of the forest come back that have been burned. And until they do, we're at fairly low fire risk. So, anywho, I guess I'm about ready to wrap it up. I'm glad to have all of our stuff here. That's nice. And as I'm going through unpacking the boxes, I realized that we actually brought a lot of very useful stuff with us, a lot of pantry items and stuff, paper goods. Obviously, we have our clothes and stuff. Having the fishing poles arrive enabled us to go fishing today because I'd been waiting like 3 weeks after we moved into our stuff got here. So that was my fault because I should have prioritized it as the first thing to do, or one of the first things to do, but I didn't do so. The thing is, this is not a house that is very susceptible to burning down. It's not made out of wood, it's not like a log cabin or something, and it's already got the trees cleared a certain distance away from the house. Regardless, CAL FIRE operates as a safe structures first organization. So even if there is a burn, there's a lot of times structures left where the forest around the structure is completely burned, but they've managed to protect the structure. Thing is, I don't want that outcome. You know, if it's going to destroy all the natural beauty in which I live, uh, I'd probably prefer the house burned down and get the insurance money, you know. But, you know, we bought at the right time. We bought right after the two fires, and also after Mariposa County passed this moratorium on basically income properties, or at least vacation rentals. So you can't Airbnb. Like, even though we got 4 rooms and only occupy 2 of them, we each have our own room. We can't rent out Airbnb out the other 2. We don't want to anyway, so it doesn't matter to us. But it drives down property values. Of course, that moratorium has a sunset date, I believe. So at some point, that'll probably go away. I don't know. It doesn't matter so much to me because I don't plan on selling this house, you know. I'm not viewing this, even though I believe it's going to appreciate quite a bit and it'll be worth a lot more in 10 years than it is now. A lot more than that in 20 years or whatever. But I'm not viewing it as an investment. I'm viewing it as the place I'm going to live for the rest of my life. So, I mean, the advantage of having it appreciate would be I could borrow against it if I needed to. But that should never happen, hopefully. Melissa Joan Hart became a Christian last year? What was she before? A Satanist? The Backstreet Boys appeared in an episode of Sabrina the Teenage Witch? Good for them. I don't know if you've heard, but Backstreet's back. All right. I need to organize my moving boxes as well, says Mr. Bobby. Don't you wish that with a snap of a finger you could declutter everything? Yeah. Well, I've got plenty of space in which to organize stuff. There's plenty of cabinets and plenty of shelves and stuff like that. So, this will be a gradual process, Rachel and I complete in the next couple of weeks as we go through the boxes. Like, I'm gonna definitely have to continue going through them until I find my cable that connects the audio card to the laptop. I could get a new one, I guess. That cable's not particularly expensive, but my long mic cable, those long mic cables are expensive, so I don't want to get another long mic cable. I want to find the one I have. I know I have it. So far, I've determined. At first, I was kind of thinking like, oh, I hope they, I hope they got everything out of the pod and brought everything. And didn't lose anything. But they didn't seem to lose anything. I found everything so far except for those 2 things. So, one thing that I think is kind of fun is I brought, my parents had silverware, like made out of silver, Like, I think it was my grandma's before it was theirs. But anyway, I just put that box with the silver in it, into the silverware drawer directly. It's already got it separated and stuff. So we're just going to use actual silverware to eat food with. It probably will get all tarnished and everything over time, but I don't plan on polishing it really. Do gay men finger their anus for wanking off? I don't know. Maybe. I got a finger on my butt and a finger on my dick, and I'm pushing them up and down. That's a good song. I got a finger in my butt and a finger on my dick, and I'm pushing them up and down. Ding, 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 finger. Yeah, I like the ding, ding, ding there as well. There are innocents here. Babes. You know, a lot of toddlers watch this, surprisingly. You'd be surprised, but maybe 80% of my audience is children aged 3 to 6. So you really got to keep it family friendly around here. Now, I actually bet that almost no children aged 3 to 6 watch this. Who doesn't like ContraPoints? I'd kiss it. Bi-curious men sometimes use bananas. I wonder if they peel them first. That would make it much more challenging, I bet, if they peeled it first. You have to have a very loose butthole to push a peeled banana up there. Otherwise, it would just smush, you know. If maybe you should just leave the peel on, I guess. Millions of subs. Have you checked her out? Who's her? I don't know. No, I have not. I've not checked out her. Her has millions of subs. Good for her. She's millions of subs ahead of me for sure. Well, good for her. You know, I don't begrudge others' success. You have to be bi-cognizant to put a peeled banana up your butt. Keep that in mind. Weirdo INFJ, maybe. Mord says, Eric would disagree with Contra on so much stuff, but she does have some damn good NI pop. Maybe I'll look at it. Maybe I'll say, no, you're wrong about that on the other dog. You know how Eric is. He can get a little schmarky sometimes. So I read earlier, although I didn't read it out loud, somebody said that mushroom tea hits faster and goes away sooner than eating the mushrooms. I don't think I've experienced it that way. I do think it hits faster, but I think the total length of the trip is the same. I just uploaded to that channel today for the first time in a long time. So that felt good. Felt like I was accomplishing something actually. Okay, I'm gonna wrap it up now. I'm gonna watch a little TV, go to bed. Thanks for being here, everybody. I love you all with my emotion heart. And don't forget to eat plenty of cheese.